In July 2019, a 4-year-old boy living in Houston, Texas froze while watching a documentary about the 50th anniversary of Apollo 11 on his family's television. Little Ethan's eyes were glued to the screen. His body stiffened. Then the words that came out of his mouth set his parents on a journey that would shape the rest of their lives. "I saw what happened when they turned off the camera. There were others there." These words marked the beginning of an incredible investigation that would lead from an ordinary evening to NASA archives, classified documents, and ultimately to controversial photos recently released by the Chinese Space Agency. Because Ethan wasn't just talking about the Apollo mission. He remembered something that seemed to have never happened. He carried memories that weren't his own, and what he recounted would reveal one of the most closely guarded secrets in the history of space exploration. Ethan had a different childhood from the moment he was born. Jennifer remembers his first words being "up" and "star." Ethan would point to the night sky and stare for hours. He acted as if he were searching for something there. By the time he was 2 years old, he wasn't interested in toy cars or dolls. Instead, he constantly pointed to the sky, saying, "Up, home up." Even in a dark room, he would stare at the ceiling and talk for hours. At first, Jennifer thought it was just childish fantasy. Maybe he would be an astronaut someday. By the time he was 3, the child's behavior became increasingly disturbing. One night, Ethan woke up crying. "I have to go back. They're waiting for me. They're waiting in the glass house," he shouted. Mark and Jennifer thought their child was just having nightmares. But the next morning, Ethan drew something for them at the breakfast table. A large circle with small domes inside and human figures in them. "Where is this, sweetie?" Jennifer asked. Ethan answered without hesitation. "On the moon. I lived there." These words created silence. Mark and Jennifer looked at each other. This was not a normal child's fantasy. It was very specific and detailed. But the real shock would come that afternoon when Ethan watched the Apollo 11 documentary. The documentary showed Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin taking their first steps on the moon's surface. Historical footage, static noise, mission control radio conversations were on the screen. Ethan watched with interest at first. When the moment when Armstrong said, "One giant leap for mankind," was shown on the screen, Ethan began to act nervous. His hands were shaking. Ethan pointed to the static noise on the screen. "Mom, don't you hear it?" When Armstrong stopped talking, he didn't say, "Eagle has landed." They said another code. "Santa Claus is here." I repeat, "Santa Claus is here." When they turned off the camera, the lights on those gray towers came on. 3 long, 2 short flashes. Jennifer asked, her heart racing, "What do you mean, honey? What things?" Ethan continued without taking his eyes off the screen. "There were others there. They were watching us from afar, from inside the bright glass dome." Mark stopped the television. "Ethan, how do you know these things?" The child turned and looked into his father's eyes. In that gaze was a seriousness that shouldn't have been in a 4-year-old child. "Because I was there, Dad. I was one of them. I lived in the dome." Jennifer's hands trembled. This didn't sound like a story a child had made up. There was something in Ethan's voice, his posture, the look in his eyes. It was as if he really remembered, as if he was reliving that moment. "Can you show us? Can you describe exactly what you remember?" Mark asked. He was trying to remain calm. Ethan went into the living room. There, as if reenacting something, he began to move his hands. "We were inside a large glass dome. It was huge, but you couldn't see it from the surface of the moon because it was hidden inside a crater. The dome's walls were very thick, but when we looked out from inside, we could see outside, we could see Earth." He paused and closed his eyes. It was as if he was remembering that moment again. "That day when the rocket arrived, we all went to watch. Men in white suits landed on the moon. We were watching them from a distance. They didn't know. The camera didn't record everything. They only showed us what they wanted us to see." Jennifer and Mark were stunned. The details in Ethan's story, the tone, the emotional intensity. This couldn't be a fantasy. "So who were you there?" Jennifer asked. Ethan opened his eyes. "My name was different, but I don't remember it now. I only remember living inside the dome. We were observers. We were watching Earth when they came. We were only supposed to watch. We were told not to intervene." "Who told you that?" "The elders who came before us told us. They knew everything. We were just doing our job." Ethan stopped talking. As if he couldn't explain any more, But now I am here. I came back. I came back to Earth because his voice trailed off. Because what, honey? Jennifer asked. Because I had to tell the secret. People need to know. They need to know they're not alone on the moon. That night, Jennifer and Mark talked for hours. Their initial reaction was skepticism. The kids had watched a documentary and their imaginations had run wild. Psychologically, they could be experiencing trauma. But the details Ethan described, they had watched NASA documentaries. No documentary featured glass domes or secret observers. And where did Ethan's mature and confident voice come from? The next day, Jennifer decided to consult a child psychologist. Dr. Sarah Mitchell was a therapist based in Houston who specialized in childhood trauma. But her first session with Ethan was the most unusual case of her career. "Ethan, can you tell me about your memories of the moon?" she asked. The child began to tell his story without hesitation. The inside of the dome was very cold, but we wore special suits. They were thick and soft. When we looked at Earth, it was blue and white. It looked very beautiful. Some days we just watched it. But in 1969, when the rocket came, everything changed. Dr. Mitchell put down his pen. "Did you say 1969? How do you know the date?" "I know, Professor, because that was my last memory." The rocket came, the astronauts landed, and I watched them. Then something happened. I don't remember, but then I was here. I was a baby. I had started over. Dr. Mitchell took notes. He couldn't hide his astonishment at what he was hearing. How could a 4-year-old child speak so coherently about reincarnation, timelines, and moon missions? At the end of the session, Dr. Mitchell advised Jennifer and Mark, "What Ethan is describing is extremely specific. If you really want to do serious research, you need to document everything. Record every word. Keep his drawings and, if possible, contact the Department of Perception Studies at the University of Virginia. They specialize in cases like this." As the family returned home, Jennifer made a decision. They would take what Ethan said seriously. Maybe their son really did remember something. Maybe these memories were part of a truth that would change the world. The following week, Jennifer and Mark began their investigation. Every night, they sat with Ethan and asked him questions about life on the moon. The child's stories became increasingly detailed and disturbing. One evening, Ethan began drawing the inside of the dome. "This was where we lived. There were rooms under the dome. We went underground. There were laboratories there. There were screens. There were people waiting." Mark frowned. What were they waiting for? They were waiting for signals from Earth. They were constantly watching Earth. Radio waves, light signals, everything. We were their children, the new generation they were teaching us. Jennifer looked at her son's drawings and asked, "So, what were you doing there? What was your job?" Ethan paused, put down his pencil. "I was an observer. Every day I watched Earth. Sometimes we looked through telescopes, sometimes we watched on screens. When the rocket appeared in 1969, everyone got excited. The elders said, 'They've finally come.' But we couldn't intervene. We could only watch. Why couldn't you intervene?" Mark was curious about what his son was saying, but he was also uneasy. There were rules. Never reveal yourself, never communicate, just observe and record. Our job was to archive. We were writing history. These words began to worry Jennifer. The children were talking about strange things. How could a 4-year-old child use concepts like archivist and writing history? So naturally, at Dr. Mitchell's suggestion, the family began recording all conversations, and they sent an email to the University of Virginia's Department of Perception Studies. Surprisingly, a response came within just 48 hours. Dr. Jim Tucker's assistant was interested in the case. They wanted to meet with Ethan. 2 weeks later, Dr. Tucker came to Houston. His first meeting with Ethan took place in the hotel conference room. Dr. Tucker was an experienced scientist who had been researching childhood reincarnation cases for over 40 years and had documented more than 2,500 cases. But even Ethan's story caught his attention. Dr. Tucker asked, "Ethan, can you tell me more about the dome on the moon?" The dome was huge, maybe as big as a football field, but the underground section was even bigger. There were machines there. The elders said these machines had been running for thousands of years. Dr. Tucker took notes. Thousands of years? We've been living there for a very long time. The moon base is very old. We were there even before people on Earth built the first pyramids. Jennifer and Mark looked at each other in shock. Ethan hadn't mentioned the thousands of years detail before. So, in 1969, when Apollo 11 arrived, what did you see? Dr. Tucker asked the question carefully. Ethan closed his eyes as if reliving the moment. We were on the observation deck of the dome. There were very powerful telescopes. When they saw the rocket, the elders called us. "Come look," they said. "They finally come here." Ethan's voice had changed. He no longer sounded like a 4-year-old child. He spoke like someone reliving a memory. The rocket landed. 2 men in white suits came out. We watched them. They planted a flag, collected rocks. But the most important moment was when the camera shut off. Dr. Tucker leaned forward. What happened when the camera shut off? One of the astronauts showed the others something. They saw something far away at the edge of the crater. Something bright. Maybe it was the reflection of the glass dome. Maybe something else. But they didn't tell Mission Control. They didn't record it. They just looked at each other and remained silent. Dr. Tucker listened in astonishment. "How do you know this?" "Because we were watching them closely. We had hidden cameras. We recorded their every move." The elders said they were afraid. "They're not ready. The time hasn't come yet." The room fell silent. Dr. Tucker, Jennifer, and Mark listened to Ethan's every word. There was sincerity, a heartfelt quality to the child's narration. It was impossible to explain this away as pure imagination. "Ethan, who did you live with inside that dome? Do you remember your family?" "My family was different. It wasn't like that in our community. There were elders. They taught us everything. I had siblings who were young like me. We all knew we had a mission: to observe, to wait, and when the time came, to reveal the secret." "What secret?" Ethan turned to her. "Mom, the moon isn't empty. It never was. People think the moon is just a rock. But the truth is different. There is life there. A different kind of life. Not like Earth. We have been there for a long time." Dr. Tucker took a deep breath. "Ethan, can you describe exactly where this dome is? In which region of the moon?" The child closed his eyes. He concentrated. "It is on the dark side of the moon, the side that can't be seen from Earth, inside a large crater called Daedalus, hidden in the wall of a small crater. We could see Earth from there, but there was no way they could see us from Earth." Dr. Tucker immediately took notes. The Daedalus Crater was a real place. It was located on the far side of the moon, 93 kilometers in diameter, in a region never visible from Earth. How could a 4-year-old child know this name? Imagine your son talking about such things. What would you think? Dr. Tucker continued his questions. "So, Ethan, how did you leave there? How did you get back to Earth?" Ethan was silent, his eyes filled with tears. "I don't want to remember that part," he said. Jennifer immediately went to her son, hugged him. "It is okay, sweetie. You don't have to remember." But Ethan shook his head. "No, Mom, I have to tell you. People need to know." He took a deep breath. "After 1969, a lot of things changed. The elders told me some things. Your time has come. You must go to Earth. You must be reborn there. And when you grow up, you must tell the truth." "I didn't want to come to Earth. I wanted to stay there. But they said it was your duty, so one night I fell asleep. And when I woke up, I was here. I was a baby." I had started over. There was a great silence in the room. Dr. Tucker, despite decades of experience, couldn't recall ever hearing such a consistent, such a detailed childhood reincarnation story. The interview lasted several more hours. Dr. Tucker administered various tests to Ethan. He showed him moon maps. The child correctly identified crater names and regions he had never seen before. He asked him details about the 1960 space program. Ethan described technical details that only expert researchers would know. When Dr. Tucker was alone with Jennifer and Mark, he said, "This case is extraordinary. What Ethan describes goes far beyond typical childhood fantasy. If he really remembers something, it could change the world." "But what can we do?" asked Mark. "No one will believe us. They'll think we're crazy." Dr. Tucker smiled. "Maybe they think that now, but science requires patience. We'll keep researching, and maybe one day we'll find the dome Ethan described." Just then, Jennifer's phone rang. An unknown number was calling her. "Hello, Miss Carter. My name is David Chen. I work for the China National Space Agency. The reason I am calling you may sound a little strange. I heard what your son said, and I have something to show you." Jennifer's heart began to race. "What do you want to show me?" The voice on the phone paused. In 2019, our Chang'e 4 spacecraft landed on the dark side of the moon. It took photos near the Daedalus Crater. According to official records, we found nothing. But according to unofficial records, we saw something. We saw something blurry, a glass-like structure. And we couldn't tell anyone. "Why are you telling us?" David Chen's voice trembled. "Because your son might be right, and the world deserves to know." David Chen's phone call changed everything. Jennifer and Mark went to a secret meeting with Dr. Tucker the next day. Chen was waiting for them at an unnamed cafe in Houston. A middle-aged, bespectacled Chinese man. He carried a black laptop. "Thank you for coming," Chen said. He looked around nervously. "What I am about to tell you is very dangerous. If Beijing finds out, I'll lose my job, maybe worse." Dr. Tucker leaned forward. "Mr. Chen, you can trust us. What you say will remain off the record." Chen opened his laptop, black, and white photos of the moon's surface appeared on the screen. In January 2019, our Chang'e 4 spacecraft landed on the far side of the moon. For the first time in history, we went to a region never seen from Earth. He began scrolling through the photos. The first few days were normal. Soil samples, rock analyses, routine work. But on the third day, our vehicle took panoramic photos in the direction of the Daedalus Crater. Then he opened a file. A blurry, grayscale image appeared on the screen. At first glance, only craters and rocks were visible. But Chen zoomed in on the screen. He focused on the upper right corner of the image. "Look here," he said there. On the edge of the crater was an unnatural geometric shape. There were soft curves and straight lines. It looked like a dome. Jennifer held her breath. "What is this?" "Official explanation. Light reflection, camera lens error," said Chen. He smiled sadly. "But we engineers know Chang'e 4's camera is state of the art. It doesn't have lens errors. And light reflections aren't this symmetrical." Mark put his hand to his mouth. "So you really think it is a structure?" Chen nodded. "I don't think I know, because it is not just this photo." He opened another file. This time, the image was clearer. Same area but from a different angle. And this time, another detail was visible next to the dome. There were small, bright spots. They looked like windows. When we reported to Beijing, they told us to forget what we saw. Chen continued. "They classified the images. They deleted them from the archives, they told us. Forget what you saw. But I made copies, because I knew that one day someone would come and ask for the truth." Dr. Tucker carefully examined the photos. "Mr. Chen, can you give me the coordinates of these images?" "Of course I will." Chen pulled out a piece of paper. It read, latitude, 18.6 phase, longitude, 173.2 phase, near Daedalus Crater. Dr. Tucker immediately took out his phone. Dr. Tucker entered the coordinates into NASA's public database. An error message appeared on the screen. "Image data missing, black band application." Dr. Tucker's eyes widened. "This area has been censored. On Google Earth or NASA maps, the crater Ethan mentioned is covered with a black digital band. If there is nothing there, why are they blocking our view?" Chen shook his head. "Number if these photos are made public. The Chinese government will deny it. They'll blame me, and they'll say the photos are fake. I'll show you something else." He opened another file. This time he showed a video, a short one, only 14 seconds long. It was a panoramic view of the moon's surface from Chang'e 4's camera. The image slowly panned to the right. Craters, rocks, shadows. But then, at the 9-second mark, something appeared in the right corner of the screen, very fast, almost too brief to notice. A bright, blue-white light, as if there was a signal. The video ended. Chen paused the screen. "We saw this light 3 times, on different days, but always in the same area. It is as if someone was sending us a signal." Dr. Tucker's hand trembled. "This fits perfectly with what we know." Ethan joined the conversation. "They are observers. Maybe they are still there. And maybe now, they have started to communicate. Mark took a deep breath. So what should we do? How do we explain this to the world? Chen shut down the computer. You shouldn't explain it yet, because powerful people don't want this truth to come out. But one day, when the time is right, when Ethan is older, he will explain it. And maybe then the world will be ready to listen. As they left the cafe, Jennifer thought about her son. 4-year-old Ethan was innocently playing with his toys at home. But that innocent child may have carried the greatest secret in human history. That night, when they returned home, Ethan greeted them at the door. Mom, Dad, Uncle Doctor, I remembered something today. All three were surprised. What did you remember, sweetie? Jennifer asked. Ethan was holding a drawing. It showed a dome, people inside it, and a beam of light extending from the dome to Earth. We sent a signal to Earth every day. We asked, "Are you ready?" And we waited until someone answered. Dr. Tucker knelt down, bringing himself to the child's eye level. Ethan, how did you send this signal? There was a special light machine. We loaded messages onto it, and it sent the message to Earth. But the people on Earth couldn't understand it, because their technology wasn't advanced enough yet. Is it advanced enough now? Ethan nodded. They're getting closer now. In 2019, the Chinese came, and they saw us. Soon more people will come, and then they'll learn the truth. Jennifer closed her eyes. What her son was saying matched Chen's photos perfectly. This couldn't be a coincidence. There really was something on the moon. The following week, Dr. Tucker intensified his research. He accessed NASA archives and examined all records of the 1969 Apollo 11 mission, and he found something astonishing. In the mission control records, there was a 4-minute silence that had been removed from the official broadcast. The 20th of July, 1969, at 22:17 UTC, exactly when Armstrong and Aldrin were walking on the moon. During those 4 minutes, there was no communication in the official records. But Dr. Tucker contacted Martin Kowalski, a former NASA technician. Kowalski had worked at Mission Control in 1969. After retiring, he sometimes met up with his old colleagues. Dr. Tucker, I remember those 4 minutes, he said. I was a young technician back then, but I had my earpiece on. I heard Armstrong's voice. It was a very faint sound, but I heard it. There is something shining over there by the crater. Then Aldrin replied, I see it. What should we do? And then the communication cut off. Someone shut the channel. When it opened again 4 minutes later, they were continuing their normal conversation. As if nothing had happened, Dr. Tucker dropped his pen. Why isn't this in the records? Because they deleted it. Someone high up removed that conversation from the archives. They told us technicians, you didn't hear anything. But I remember. I remember the shock in Armstrong's voice. This information matched Ethan's story perfectly. They saw something, but they didn't say anything. Dr. Tucker immediately called Jennifer. Ethan's story is confirmed. The Apollo 11 crew really did see something, and they hid it. If it happened on Apollo 11, it could have happened on the others too. Apollo 12, 14, 15, 16, 17. There could be secret recordings on all of them. The investigation was no longer just about a child's memories. It had turned into a massive discovery involving NASA archives, the Chinese Space Agency, those who kept secrets, and those who sought the truth. Ethan was at the center of this entire discovery. A 4-year-old child was the key that would allow humanity to face its greatest truth on the moon. As the investigation intensified, Ethan's memories also began to become clearer. It was as if, with each passing day, he could feel the rooms behind those closed doors opening one by one. One morning, Jennifer found Ethan crying in his sleep. Mom, I saw them in my dream. The people in the dome were calling me. Jennifer took her son in her arms. What did they say to you? They said, the time has come. You can speak now. But Mom, I am scared. What if no one believes me? Jennifer stroked her son's hair. Sweetie, we believe you. Dr. Tucker believes you. And look, even Mr. Chen believes you. You are not alone. That afternoon, Dr. Tucker arrived for an urgent meeting. He had 2 other people with him. One was Dr. Linda Morrison, a former NASA astrophysicist. The other was Peter Novak, an independent investigative journalist. They want to meet Ethan, he said. But they'll only meet him if you say so. They're trustworthy people. and maybe they can help get your story out to the world. Dr. Morrison was a kind woman. She approached Ethan and knelt down. Hello, Ethan. My name is Linda. I work on space. Can you tell me what the dome on the moon looked like? Ethan was silent for a moment, then began to speak. The dome was very tall, maybe 50 meters high. It was made of very strong glass. It was invisible from the outside because it had a special coating, but from the inside we could see everything. Dr. Morrison took notes. So how was the dome built? Who built it? We didn't build it, we just lived there. The dome was built thousands of years ago. The first builders came from Earth, but that was a long time ago when people were different. This answer surprised everyone. From Earth? Asked Peter Novak. Yes, because the moon has always been a base for observing Earth, and when the time comes, it will guide humanity. Ethan's voice was so mature, so confident, that the adults in the room looked at each other in astonishment. Dr. Morrison pulled out a photograph. Ethan, is this the dome you remember? The child stared at the photo for a long time. Then he nodded. Yes, that is the dome. But this photo was taken from very far away. If they had gotten closer, they would have seen more details. A secret tunnel in the crater wall leads under the dome. You enter through there, Dr. Morrison asked excitedly. So how do you open that entrance? Is there a lock? Ethan smiled. There is no lock. You just have to send a signal at a certain frequency. Then the door opens. Do you know that frequency? Ethan shook his head. I don't remember. But one day I will remember. They will remind me. They remind me in my dreams. Peter Novak was recording the entire conversation. Then he asked, Ethan, do you think the world is ready to learn this truth? The boy thought. Some people are ready. Some aren't. But the time has come, because soon more people will go to the moon, and they will find the dome. And then they won't be able to hide it. After the meeting, Dr. Tucker made a decision. He would document Ethan's story and prepare a scientific report. The report would go into the official archives of the University of Virginia. But more importantly, Peter Novak planned to publish the story in an international science journal. It is worth the risk, said Novak, because if Ethan is right, this will be the greatest discovery in human history. However, before the report was published, an unexpected development occurred. NASA announced the route for the 2025 Artemis mission, and surprisingly, the astronauts would land in the Daedalus Crater on the moon, exactly the area Ethan and Chen had described. When Jennifer heard the news, her heart began to race. This can't be a coincidence, she said. NASA knows, they know something is there, and now they're going to go check it out. Dr. Tucker disagreed. Maybe it is a coincidence. Maybe NASA is just doing scientific research, but what if it is not? What if they really did see Chen's photos? When Ethan heard about the Artemis mission, he had a strange reaction. The dome will let them in. It will open the door. Because the time has come, people are ready, and the elders, they will give the astronauts a message. What message? Ethan's eyes lit up. A welcome message. You are finally here. We've been waiting for you. These words deeply affected everyone in the room. Because if Ethan was right, in 2026, when the Artemis astronauts landed on the moon, humanity would experience the most shocking moment in its history. First contact would occur. As Ethan grew older, some memories began to fade. This was a normal process in childhood reincarnation cases, as Dr. Tucker had pointed out. But some things never faded. His longing for the dome, his respect for the elders, and that deep belief he had to convey to humanity. In 2026, NASA and international space agencies planned a new mission to approach the structure on the moon. This time, it wouldn't just be an observation. Perhaps Ethan's story was something even deeper than reincarnation. So, what do you think awaits the astronauts on the Artemis mission in 2026? The welcome message Ethan mentioned, or the terrifying truth hidden beneath NASA's black tape that they've been keeping secret for years? Share your theories in the comments. Perhaps it will be your attention that uncovers the truth.